Well, hi, everyone. I'm Maureen Blanford. I'm VP of Marketing here at GiveSmart, and welcome to all of you under trying circumstances for sure. Gosh, we've heard from so many of our charity partners over the past week or two with their concerns over what to do next, given this interesting situation that we're all in. And I am trying to navigate PowerPoint online. But specifically, we've had a lot of requests about how to shift a portion of your fundraising from face-to-face to virtual or online. So we know how critical these face-to-face events have been for you in hitting your goals for the year. Joining me today is my colleague, Eric Newman, a veteran himself of 500 in-person events and has managed 10,000 more. So he has certainly seen quite a few pivots, haven't you, Eric?
We have. Nothing quite like this, but we've seen it before, and we're glad to be able to help. So thanks for having me.
Perfect. So just a quick high level, y'all, before we get started. We have more fundraising, pivoting to virtual fundraising resources for you than we can possibly cover in the next 45 minutes. So for current GiveSmart customers joining us today, your brilliant CSMs are at the ready to help you brainstorm and execute. For those of you who are not or not yet GiveSmart customers, we also have plenty of free resources for you. Follow our social channels. You'll see them there. We've got stuff in chat today in the platform, but also we have a team of absolutely brilliant account executives who are also at the ready to help. I mean, there's just nothing that is driving us all more than working on this together. So before we dig in, just a quick poll to help us understand where you are today so we can launch that, Kels. What is your current situation? Are you at the point where you've already canceled? Are you going to postpone or have you not decided yet? And Eric, as folks are filling that in, can you just give me an example of an event where you've had to pivot?
Sure. Well, I think as long as people have been gathering, things have come up to prevent people from gathering, whether that be weather or natural disasters or something happening in your community. I remember my first winter in Chicago, we thought it was over, and then April came around. And on April 21st, a huge Saturday that year, for fundraising events, there were blizzards through the city. So one client in particular of mine, we quickly were able to pivot their event from guests gathering in a venue to guests gathering online, and every way that that organization was going to raise money that night, we were able to put online and allow guests to access it straight through their mobile devices or laptops and continue to donate. What we found in all of these experiences, whether a blizzard or a wildfire or whatever it might be, we found that the key was to take a breath and to slow down for just a second and know that people want to support your mission and that you have everything you need to pivot and succeed. You have a compelling story, you have people to tell it to, and you have the tools right at your fingertips to make this happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Kelsey, we can go ahead and publish the poll. All right, so still quite a few that are undecided. That makes sense. Yeah, this is, Eric, this is about in keeping with what we're hearing from customers, is it not?
It does track with what we're seeing, yeah.
Perfect. All right. So, and again, PowerPoint online is giving me some fits, so forgive me. All right, let me bring this one back to it then. All right. Thanks, y'all, for hanging in there. So with that, what we'll be covering today in the next 30 minutes, and then we'll do 30 minutes of Q&A, is we're going to talk about some data that we have from our clients and that we're looking at just to help you see the art of the possible and that this is not the end of the world. We're going to talk a little bit about what a virtual event is. There are actually a couple of definitions there that I think are important. We'll talk about the magic combo, which will become apparent to us as we move through the next 30 minutes. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about moving more into fundraising all year round, which is near and dear to our hearts here at GiveSmart. And then we have a couple of fabulous colleagues joining us for Q&A so we can get to all the questions and answer them as they come up. So with that, Eric, talk to us a little bit about inspiration.
Maureen, this week, this Monday and Tuesday, this is what's really been this has been my cup of coffee to get up and keep going. Last week, with very little notice, we all know how quickly this has all come about. Here's what organizations pulled off. And I'll zoom into this, talk about one of these campaigns and one of these charity partners, and that's happening actually right now this week for an event that was planned for this Saturday. They pivoted to an open virtual auction, and they decided to open it up early for bidding. They launched it last night. And what we've heard from that client this morning is that they've already raised more than they did with their entire event last year in just one night of bidding. And that's really, those kind of stories are what's driving us to want to help everybody be able to pivot and be able to do something to continue raising money this year.
Absolutely. And I think the key here is virtual fundraising is not new, is it?
It's not. I'll tell you a story from last year with a client I was working with that they didn't have anything crazy happen to cancel an event, but they just had an item come in late. The item was a puppy that wasn't ready to be adopted quite yet, but they still wanted to auction off this puppy. So we pivoted to an online auction. We went with one item. It was open for one day, and it raised $1,000. And so this kind of thing, again, whether it be due to a natural disaster needing to pivot, or just because it was the way that made the most sense to reach our donors, we've been raising money online and doing things virtually for a while now.
It's possible. Yay. All right. So regardless of if you've canceled or postponed or undecided, let's talk about what makes a virtual event. And Eric, since you've been involved in so many, unnatural to help us look at the spectrum here.
Sure. So there's really two big categories that we've seen. And the first is an extended virtual fundraising campaign. So this is switching it up from your one night, your few hours in a room, to extend that out and create a little bit more time. And there are some advantages here that we allow, especially during a time like this, for everyone to interact with your campaign on their own terms, whether that's on Saturday night and they want to get dressed up, or at 2 in the morning, or when they're doing a grocery run, or whenever they find the time. The other great thing about having an open campaign is we let bidders bid against each other, and anytime bidders are bidding against each other, the bottom line goes up, and those fundraising totals go up. We've also found that leaving things open for a number of days or a number of weeks allows more time for people to share, and then for those people to share, and for people to really use their networks to help you reach more donors with your fundraising campaign.
Well, and Eric, not to hit you with a question that you might not be prepared for, but I'm going to hit you with a question you might not be prepared for because I don't have my notes. One of the things I know when we're talking to folks about live events is there's always a lot of worry about the silent auction and when you open it, and is it cannibalizing something else? Whereas with the virtual auction, you have more flexibility, yes?
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, there's you don't have to worry about people holding people's attention for some special moment. They can be on their phone and doing the other things that they need to do. So yeah, keeping that auction open longer, again, it drives that competition between the bidders and allows people to share.
Perfect. All right, thanks. Well done. Let's pivot now to a live virtual event. Tell us about that.
Great. So this is another option, and it's really for an organization that wants to keep that special moment and keep that specific time where they're going to engage with their guests. And so it's keeping that appointment, that social appointment that you have with your guests, and that your guests have with each other, that they are going to together as a community raise money for your event. So there are a lot of great ways that you can go about creating this, whether it be live streaming on social media or just live tweeting or live Instagram posting using Instagram stories, but using a tool that's going to allow people to really simulate gathering together to support your organization. Of course, if you have a tool like GiveSmart, you're then able to back that up with text messages that run in time with the things that you're doing, the moments that you're drawing your guests' attention to. And you know, this is a great option for you if you want to keep that live moment, that emotional appeal, and that momentum that comes with a community gathering to support a cause together.
Absolutely. And just a side note here, y'all, GiveSmart is a part of the Community Brands family, which means that, as you'll imagine, there's been a lot of talk about how technically to run virtual events, and we have a couple of great options within Community Brands. So if you are interested in that, let us know, and we will connect you happily. Anything else on this, Eric?
Sure. So if we want to move to the next slide, we can talk a bit about how to really replace that in-person engagement, a person on a stage with a microphone talking to your guests, and how to make sure that we're still getting your message and, of course, the opportunity to give right to your guests' fingertips. And we can do that right from the screen of their phone or their laptop. So the part of the challenge that doesn't change when you go virtual is telling your story and expressing your mission and putting that in front of people. And nobody knows better than you how to do that. The part that we can really help with is giving that opportunity to give right on their mobile device or on their laptop, wherever they are, right in front of their face and right at their fingertips. Here's one example. It's just a screenshot of how we might put a donation appeal on someone's screen. And you see here, there are options for them to give at preset amounts that you get to customize, or to then type in any amount that they want to be able to give. And we have options as well, in particular during a time like this where there's some uncertainty for you and for your donors alike, to be able to spread that gift out on a monthly basis. And our platform has the opportunity for you to be able to collect those recurring donations after they're committed or pledged during a live event like this. But no matter how you are raising money or how you are planning to raise money at an in-person event, that can be moved online. So you think about silent auction, and as opposed to guests walking around writing their bids on pen and paper, we can move that online and even back that up with text message notifications that allow guests to know when they've been outbid, so that they know they can go back and replace a bid. Actually, regardless of whether we're at a live event or doing things virtually, we see silent auctions yielding 30% or more over and above what they raise through paper and pen. The live auction is one we're getting a lot of questions about this week, because how do you do live when you're going virtual? And there are a few different options there. One is to just think about a super silent auction. So if you take those premium items, we can draw some extra attention to them by putting them at the top of the page, even adding images that hint that these are the ones you really, really want to look at. We can do some things like keeping those items open only for a short amount of time, say an hour or 2 hours, or just for one night, while the rest of the auction is open for a longer period of time. And we've seen some organizations do some great things with live streaming to be able to connect the silent auction functionality of the bidding straight from someone's phone with that emotional moment of competition and of gathering around a cause together through a live stream. The donation appeal, you saw the example previously, but there are options for both one-time giving and for monthly giving that you can turn on or off for a donor. There are options if you're going the more live route to have a donation display that shows how your donors, even though they're not in the room together, are coming around the cause to meet a specific goal that you've set. And we've even seen something as simple as a raffle that a lot of organizations use, or games that a lot of organizations use. There are ways to move any way that you were planning on raising funds straight into a virtual environment. Maureen, I think we can look at one example of how an organization this past weekend did a live auction.
Terrific. Now, if the technology works with me, we can share that. So, and I'm wondering if I have lost that. When I went to the poll, something happened, y'all. So here's I'm just going to explain it to you, and we will send out the link in the follow-up email. But the lovely people at Corpus Christi School, and a shout out to Kristen Simpson, who shared this success story with us, and you are going to want to go see this link because it's amazing. And it's what they did was they live streamed via YouTube their live auction. It was as It was as adorable and dorky as these live auctions can be. You can tell they all knew each other, and then YouTube had sort of that live stream of engagement where people were commenting while the auction was going on. It was really fabulous. So our team will put that into the follow-up email. But again, thank you to the Corpus Christi School in Piedmont, California. And when you see it, Eric, there's a couple of reasons that they really nail it, right?
Absolutely. So whether we're in person or we're online, we want to hit this.
Oh my God. Sorry, let me get to the next slide.
Sure thing, sure thing.
There you go.
We want to hit this magic combination, right? We want to present the opportunities to give, and more than present them, we want to hype them up. We want to bring energy around all the ways that a guest or a donor could be giving. The second thing we want to make sure we're doing is we can do that in a live streamed event or online by using sponsor ads or continuing to make those kind of sponsor announcements like you'd make in person. And then the third thing is what you guys are always really good at, and that's telling your specific story and tugging at the heartstrings of your donors, making a connection with them so that they feel motivated to support your cause.
Well, it would just make sense that in this global event that the technology is really not supporting us. So I'm going to try one more time, but I really am not enjoying PowerPoint online here, folks. So anyway, with that, yes, Eric, well said. The technology can only do so much. Your stories continue to be super important. Let's talk a little bit about all year round, because essentially this is what we're all doing, is pivoting here to seeing what we can do outside of the annual events, outside of that room. So Eric, over to you on a little more data.
Sure. So we did a study this year that told us that the typical donor is willing to give between 4 and 10 times a year. So if you had your one big annual fundraising event, you might have been leaving some opportunities on the table, and switching to virtual actually gives you the opportunity to collect information and get guests used to interacting with an online interface to support you. And throughout the year, then you can continue to engage them and give them that opportunity to give, whether it be in person or virtual, regardless of the circumstance.
Absolutely. And just knowing your donors overall by segment in order to engage, how critical is that for our customers?
It is critical. So what I want you to do is think about your core donors and look at this list across the top. Think about the plans that you have or that you had for your fundraising event, and look at the list going down the left side of that page. And now, no matter how this matches up with your specific ideas or your specific donors, all of these options can be moved online, and every person can engage with and support your organization through a virtual fundraising.
Absolutely. Perfect. All right, y'all. So before we head in to Q&A, and I'm seeing from the team that we have plenty of questions, the things that Eric and I, on behalf of our entire GiveSmart team, want you to know is you've got this. You have folks who have been there before and have done this before you, and virtual fundraising is going to continue to grow. So as you pivot to virtual, you've got resources at your fingertips. You've got online fundraising software. You've got text and you've got email, you've got social media for virtual community building, and you've got live feed streaming that you can look into and let us know if you want to talk more about that. We do encourage everyone to strongly consider all year round. As well, we want you to remember your compelling stories, because it's really the engaging with folks via the heartstring, whether you're face-to-face or whether you're online. It's your compelling stories that are what's bringing your donors closer to you and what they care the most about. And that's how we get them to donate more all year round. So with that, I believe we are going to turn to some Q&A at this point, and our fabulous Diane Kleber and our fabulous Erin Phillips will be joining Eric My team will be filtering some questions to us, but I think at this point, Diane, I'll turn it over to you to facilitate.
All right, everybody. We hopefully have some good questions, and actually, I am going to invite someone from the GoToWebinar team to read us the questions, so because I don't have access to them, but we are ready and to answer these questions for sure. The other thing is, I don't know if you saw in the chat that Brandon was so wonderful to put some resources. So the YouTube video, our donor experience study, as well as both of our studies. So really great stuff going on out there, as well as the fact that we are going to be offering office hours. And so we've got some great things coming up in the upcoming week, in addition to all of these questions. So
with that, Diane, first question, is there an optimal length of time for an open event, specifically an auction? Better to open it up a week before or make it a big night?
I'm going to turn that one over to Erin, because this is her specialty.
Thanks. I think we've actually seen this, change over the past weekend alone. We've always recommended about a 5 to 7 day time length to keep your auction open. So plenty of time for the donors to get familiar with the items, but not too long of a period that they lose interest. So it sort of depends on what you're doing. If you're doing strictly online, probably that 5 to 7 day time frame is good. But if you are doing somewhat of this virtual event where you really want to have that impact on the same night you originally planned, then it makes sense to kind of let people preview the items beforehand or even bid on them, but then still plan to close it on that same night.
Perfect. Next question. A lot of our auction packages feature travel. Should we replace them?
I'll jump on this one. So I've been actually talking to a number of auctioneers over the last week, and they are a lot of the specialists on this, and certainly working with a lot of consignment partners and that type of thing. So I think, certainly if you have that item that's, somebody's cottage, over the next week, over next month or that type of thing, yeah, we should probably refrain from any kind of travel that's occurring in these upcoming months where things are still unsure. But we know that even this past weekend, there were some auction packages that sold for travel that's later in the year or next year. A lot of the consignment companies were, you're actually scheduling your own travel time. So we would say, just be prudent, take a look at what type of auction or travel package, I should say, and evaluate there. But no, people are still interested in travel. Once we get past this interesting time, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people trying to get out of the house and hopefully do some travel.
Diane, that's a great point. And I think it can also be an opportunity to approach, if it's a donated travel package, to approach the donor and see what other options there may be, flexible dates or a rain check sort of thing.
Perfect. Quick question on corporate sponsors. Any suggestions on how to amp this up so sponsors find it more exciting to do it online versus live?
I can take this one. I don't know necessarily amp it up, but I think there's so many different ways that you can promote your sponsors. Typically when you're at an event, you're showing them on a big screen, but with the technology, something that we've seen a couple people do is send out text messages highlighting those sponsors. As we all know, everyone's ingrained in their phone. So sometimes a text message actually goes further than just seeing a name on a big screen. So you can send a text thanking them, promote their business, link it to a video or link it to their website. And it's really getting more attention than it actually might have at the event itself.
All right, great. Other great questions coming in. So this is fantastic. So one person is asking, please explain more about the live auction to be conducted virtually. I'm not clear. And I'll take a first swing on this, and then Eric and Erin, you can jump in afterwards, because I just so happen in the last 24 hours, I have observed two virtual events, if that's kind of funny, test virtual events. And so both involve live auctioneers where they did still conduct that live auction. And what they did is they were live streaming that auctioneer with, who was talking about those items just like they would. and people were bidding on them through their mobile bidding platform, so like through GiveSmart. And so it was fantastic because these were, as Eric had discussed, these were silent auction items that were just available in a short period of time. So they were opened up for this moment where that started, and then closed immediately after that. Outside of that, you know, if you're not doing a live feed, if you're just going to want to do it all online, then I would say you're converting them to that super silent that Eric spoke of, and that we do see a lot of success with that. So Eric or Aaron, anything to add on that?
I think you did a great job covering it, Diane.
There you go. All right. Here's a good one, and I think this is a big question a lot of folks are having. Any suggestions or best practices for communicating the pivot to virtual? Any creative ideas for publicizing invites for that virtual event or the language that we want to use?
Sure, I can take that one. We've seen people get really creative. A lot of it has been coming in email communication. So they're sending an email to their donors. They're letting them know, you know, while we can't be together in person and join in on the same meal, you know, we're still going to have some fun. So they're posting a lot of information ahead of time about, you know, making sure, of course, people know how to access the auction. If they are live streaming it, they're including that link. But, you know, they're coming up with fun hashtags for people to use to be able to share photos. You know, really encouraging people to make their favorite drink and get settled on the couch and be ready for the night. So lots of cute ideas. Definitely want to think outside the box on that. And then email your donors on how you want to celebrate together from a distance.
I saw one that I thought was really good in that it used the power of this moment to highlight the specific needs of their cause. So, you know, if your organization supports marginalized people or students who have specific needs at this time that they may have not had a couple of weeks ago, then this is a great opportunity to say, now more than ever, come and help us.
I think those are great. I think that's fantastic. I think, you know, any positive spin, any way to make it engaging, I think that's a great suggestion. Another good question out here, and this is a tricky one. Are any organizations worried about the optics around asking for money during a time like this? Is there anyone looking to delay holding an event until a better time? If this were an open session where people could communicate, and maybe this is a future topic, you know, for sure, but a question is coming up again and again. And what I can tell you from my perspective, we, and Eric even talked about this, we had an incredibly successful fundraising weekend last weekend. We're finding that donors are being incredibly generous right now. While it is a time where maybe folks are saying, I'm going to focus on my necessary spending versus discretionary. If your purpose and your organization is important to someone and they need, you know, your services or know in the community you're needed, they are likely going to choose to support you, you know, as they can. So we have, even in the sales world, there's a lot of blogs and things going on out there like, should we be selling or shouldn't we? And absolutely, the world needs to continue. And when an organization like yours that has such a great purpose needs these funds to survive, then I would say yes, let's do something right now. Now, if you are lucky enough that you do have the funds to be able to wait to delay, then that's certainly a consideration. But those are some of the things that I've been hearing, and just from the generosity we saw over this past weekend, we know donors are giving. Aaron and Eric, I don't know if you have anything to add there based on conversations you've had with some organizations who are moving forward.
Yep, I would agree 100%. It seems like everybody is more willing now than ever to donate to these great causes. And, you know, I think we may hate it at the end, but we talked a little bit about, do we refund ticket purchases? And in most cases, we're turning ticket purchases into donations. And, you know, the donors are happy with that. They want to give.
Yeah, it's something.
And I've got a question. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was reading an article about self-care earlier today, and one of the biggest tips was to serve someone else or to be generous to someone else. as a way to sort of cope with what's going on in your own world. So I think whereas sometimes as fundraisers we feel guilty asking, I think we can reframe that as we're providing an opportunity for somebody to do something that in their heart they really want to do and that is going to be good for them as well.
Excellent. Excellent. I want to circle back because Aaron was talking about, how some people have converted their ticket sales into donations. And that's actually one of the questions we have. How can we make up for the revenue that would have come from ticket sales? So Aaron, I don't know, in the conversations you've had with the folks who have started selling tickets and then even those that haven't, if there's, any other suggestions you have here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in most cases, I would say almost everyone that has sold tickets is doing some form of communication where, they're suggesting that they are turning those ticket purchases into donations. Of course, if someone wants to refund their ticket, they're making accommodations, but it doesn't seem like we're getting too many requests. But for those events that haven't started selling tickets yet, I think that's where the creativity on the different ways that you can fundraise will come in handy. Asking for donations and being really specific about your cause. And, like everyone said, that the world's going to go on after this. So we need to be forward thinking and let everybody know what impact that event would have had and come up with creative ideas to get that money in different ways.
It really is about creativity right now. And every neat idea out there is helping so much. I just want to mention we have hundreds of questions coming in. So we are going to continue to answer these questions, but I want all of you to know that we're going to do our best to get to as many as they can. I'm trying to categorize them a bit here, but we will find a way, maybe through a blog post or something, to answer all these questions after the fact, or maybe even another webinar in a day or two. So we'll figure this out for you, but we're going to continue here. Just know that there's a lot of them out there. Related to creative ideas, so a few people are asking about, what would you do about those normal swag bags or like some kind of in-home event kit? Have either of you heard any ideas about like getting things to folks before the event or after the event?
I haven't heard the before, but that's a great idea. We have heard a little bit, some people who had already purchased centerpieces, not necessarily flowers, but non-living centerpieces. Actually selling those as an instant buy option. So putting a set price on those centerpieces so that when the time comes, your donors can pick up those, if it's something that can be used around the house potentially. But I'm really liking that idea of the swag bag beforehand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was on a live stream last night, one of these pre-virtual events where they were kind of showing people how it would work. It was an auctioneer who sponsored this. They had suggested that too, that, hey, maybe leading up to the day before or 2 days before your actual live streamed event, you can ship things to folks or allow for a no-touch pickup kind of thing where they do have their swag bag in advance. So that's kind of fun. A lot of creative ideas there. Let's talk, this is a good one. Please address the lead time necessary to set up a virtual event. And Aaron and Eric, I guess we should probably address this from the standpoint of a current customer versus someone who is not yet a customer.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for a current customer, getting in touch today with your customer success manager gets that process started. And like we talked about, all of the fundraising methods that you were planning on having live, you've probably already put most of those into the site. You were just planning on having people access them from their phone while they're standing in a room with you or sitting in a room with you. So there may not be as much work as you think to switch that to be virtual. As far as someone who is not yet on GiveSmart, I'll leave that maybe to Aaron to talk about, but the time to get ramped up, I think is pretty quick.
Oh, Aaron lost audio for a minute. So I can address, from a new customer perspective, there is a little time that it takes initially to, once you sign an agreement, to get your merchant account set up. So the way that GiveSmart works is so that the money from your fundraiser can flow into your account, you do need to set up this merchant account. So that takes generally, a few days. We've been rushing things through, of course, for folks that, are running some events very quickly. So it does take a couple of days, but as soon as that merchant account is set up, like Eric said, even for a current customer, once you sign the agreement, we can give you access to build your site. And then once that merchant account is connected, we can go ahead and kind of turn it on. So you can do it in a matter of days for a new customer. But I'll be honest, I set up campaigns all the time. You can do it within an hour probably if you're a current customer. So that was a great question. Let's see.
Especially if you're finding yourself at home with some extra time on your hands, maybe the time to put that site together may have presented itself.
Exactly. Question here, this might be a tag team for us, Eric, based on some of the things I've seen with live virtual, and you can talk about maybe on the just the GiftSmart side of things. What is the alternative to a live fund a need? So what I'm seeing some of these live auctioneers do is, of course, continue to do that, where they are on video with a donation display, a thermometer type display behind them, where they're still talking it up and talking up the cause and encouraging people, but they are then making that donation via their mobile devices or their computers, to be able to make that donation through technology like GiftSmart. So there is a way with live streaming to still engage your donors, so they're still seeing that thermometer go up. Eric, do you want to handle kind of how it works when we're not using live feed, and maybe when it's just an online campaign with a texting component?
Sure. So if you're going with more of an extended virtual campaign that's going to be over a number of days or even a week or so, I think the main way we go about this is by sending a text message out to your donors in a moment that links them directly to the opportunity to give. We can also sprinkle those donation options in with the silent auction. So if they're scrolling through the silent auction and either they get outbid on the thing that they wanted, or they're not finding the item that they want to bid on, then they can make a straight donation straight through the site that way. And really with an extended campaign, we encourage you not to be shy about asking multiple times. Make that ask at the beginning, make that ask a couple days later, and make that ask before and even right after you close everything up. Multiple asks leads to multiple donations, and we see a lot of success that way.
All right, I know Erin is back. Erin, anything to add, or shall we move on to the next question?
I missed the first part, so on to the next. The
right,
one thing I can't lose these days is internet, but we're back.
All right. Can you tell us how the live streaming event works? So the live streaming is actually separate from the GiftSmart platform. Our platform would allow you the ability to capture all those donations, certainly send out messaging, all those types of things. But the live streaming, I think Eric mentioned, there's Facebook Live, there's Instagram Live. We even have a sister company that has live streaming that we can help get you connected with, low cost, not too bad, so we can get you going there. So the live streaming, basically the way it works is your donors would be sitting in front of their computers watching the live streaming, and then they'd have their mobile devices ready, whether it's their iPad or their mobile phone, ready so that they can be bidding on those items as bidding on items or making their donation while they're watching the live stream. So that's kind of a fun thing. Erin and Eric, have you heard any other information about live streaming?
Nope, think you covered it.
Yeah, I think the message is that whatever time you have or whatever resources you have to commit, there's a live streaming option at your fingertips. You can really scrap it together with even a cell phone and Facebook Live, or you can go with something that's professionally produced through a company like one of our partners or others that are out there.
Excellent. All right, let's see. We've got a lot of great questions here. Some of these are repeats. So this is a good one. Do you open the auction to everyone at the same time, or do you offer some kind of sneak peek access for some items? So I'm making an assumption here that we're talking about maybe some of those premium items that are going to have a limited time frame to bid. maybe we're talking about Aaron and Eric, having the ability for some things to be viewed but not ready to bid in advance.
Yeah, we've heard that before. I think though, since most of those items will, they're going to close at a specific time, and once you get folks in there, it's really a fair playing field. It's probably best just to open to everybody at once. Maybe it could be a sneak peek email that you do send to those folks ahead of time if you wanted to give them that. But truly, once everybody gets on the site, it's open to everyone.
Right. There are a couple ways I've seen to really give VIPs a VIP experience. One is to provide some white glove service to them, in particular if you have somebody who has the means to give and has the passion to give, but isn't as likely to engage straight from their phone. Giving them a call and talking to them about and placing bids administratively for that guest or for that VIP donor. Straight through the site yourself. You can do that as an admin. Another way that I've seen the opportunity to give VIP guests more of a VIP experience is through just special communication specifically tailored to them. Like Aaron said, maybe an early email, early access through things like that.
All right. Here's a good one. Are you concerned about the connectivity with the platform with so many events going virtual for longer amounts of time?
No. Less now than ever, but I'll tell you that our platform is built to handle 10 times more than we've had on the site at any one given time this year. So basically what I'm saying there is we have yet to reach 10% of our server capacity, and that's not because of a lack of traffic on the site. That's because of the massive server capacity that we have, just for this very reason that we want our technology to be one thing that you definitely can count on working during your event.
Wonderful. Can donors make a pledge through your platform? So this is an interesting one. I think this has to do with credit cards required, Erin.
Sure. Yeah. So the way that the platform is set up, it primarily is that the donors are really adding things to a cart, essentially. So if they are buying raffle tickets or if they are making a donation on the donation page, bidding on silent auction items, those items are really going into a shopping cart that they are paying for at the end. Once you've decided to push out a final, thanks so much for your contribution. So it is a pledge. So if you do have someone who wants to pay with another form of payment, not necessarily use the credit card that's on file, you can absolutely make those arrangements. So that, kind of brings it back to what Eric was saying, that if you have those VIPs, maybe it is somebody who is willing to donate a large sum or is going to buy some of those more expensive auction items, arrange that with them ahead of time, make sure that you're not charging their card at the end. And there's ways in the site that you can mark them paid by pledge, reminding yourself to follow up with them later.
Perfect.
Thank you, Erin.
As you're sorting the next few, I just want to set some expectations that I know that Diane and Eric and Aaron are happy to stay through to the bottom of the hour, and we'll get through as many questions as we can. And there's still quite a few of you on the line. If you look in the chat section, there are resources there. If you follow our social channels, LinkedIn and Twitter in particular, you will be seeing more and more and more content about how to support you in virtual fundraising. And we'll be answering questions. If they're broad, we can cover that in a blog, but certainly our folks are willing to follow up with you as well and answer your specific questions. Back over to you, Diane.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank you so much. We have a few questions around. We'd like to hear about alternatives to auctions, right? So I think this is probably talking more about the donation appeal, and specifically a couple questions about how to make that donation appeal exciting. So I think, we talked about the live feed version, but maybe we need to talk a little bit more about some of the creative ways where we've seen folks really get their donors engaged in a donation appeal only.
Yeah, lots of fun ideas happening. Communication first and foremost. So making sure that we're being super clear in an email or in a text message what those funds are going to. But we've also seen some creative ideas where perhaps everybody that makes a donation gets something in exchange for that. Not necessarily something large, it could be something super small, but giving them something in exchange for that. Or another creative idea would be if you have somebody who's well known in the organization, perhaps everybody that donates $25 or more can vote on something you'd like to see them do on video. Maybe they'll sing a song or make their favorite drink. Just something to keep the momentum going on that. Not necessarily just saying, we'd love for you to make a donation. It has to be a little bit more impactful, either sharing your mission or, again, kind of offering something to go along with that donation.
That's fantastic, Erin. I also saw an organization that ran their event through Zoom meeting, right? So we use Zoom at GiftSmart for all of our internal meetings and even with our prospect demos, but they used Zoom and it was great. And they did just what you were saying, Erin. They had to, like, when they made their donation, either say something or sing a song. It was really kind of fun. I don't know if they had recorded it, but it was just a fun way to engage folks in that donation appeal via Zoom. So very fun there. Okay, so we've had a few folks, and I'll address this one. We had a few folks say, hey, I was going to have a walk, run, ride, and have you heard any ideas around how to replace those? So interestingly, I just talked to someone right before this webinar started who said they were thinking of doing their run via, people at home on their treadmills. So kind of funny. I don't know how they were going to engage in that. They were still trying to think that through. But we have our partner at GiveGab who provides the technology for a walk, run, ride, so we can help you there too. But the idea being that these folks can still sign up for a walk, run, or ride, just have to find a different way perhaps to actually do the walk. It's going to have to be right through folks on their treadmills or on their Pelotons or what have you. But I think, we can absolutely investigate that further and bring that up in another webinar, because that just came up today. So glad that a few folks are thinking that way.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. We should investigate that and come up with more related to that. How about a wine pull, guys? How does the wine pull work virtually?
So a wine pull, and for anybody who hasn't done one, wine pull is really just the opportunity for a donor to come, say, pick a number or pick a cork out of a hat, and they get a bottle of wine. They pay one set price to draw, and then the bottle of wine could range in value along a spectrum. And really, a wine pull or anything like that, where we're just selling one thing for one price, we can still do that online. The logistics of how to get the bottle of wine to somebody kind of is what it is, but we can certainly still set up that we use an instant buy feature where instead of bidding in, they're just straight up purchasing the item, and we can set a limit on that item to match the number of wine bottles that you have, or the number of gifts. If you're doing some sort of grab bag that works really similarly, we just set that limit to match the number that you have. We allow people to buy them until they're sold out, and then you can figure out the distribution along with your other silent auction items that you're delivering to your guests.
Excellent. This is a fun one. We were having our beloved student group sing during our live event. Should we still feature them during our virtual events, and how? Any ideas there?
The YouTube video from the Corpus Christi folks, I think, is a great example of that. Live streaming, what a perfect example.
I'm wondering too, Maureen, we have a number of organizations when they just do their events online that they actually put a YouTube video on that homepage. So that's another option there too, right?
Amazing.
Okay. Here's a question about buy now. What is your opinion about having a buy now option for silent items? And what is the guideline for setting that price?
Well, there are different opinions on this. My opinion is that not using a buy now is the best way to go, because if somebody decides that they wanted to buy that item at the buy now price, there might have been another person who would have been willing to pay one bid higher or $5 more. And so instead of switching to buy now, leaving bidding open to reach whatever heights it might reach is a great way to go, and allowing guests to use the auto bid feature then to set the highest price they're willing to pay, and then the system will bid for them. That's my opinion on that subject. I don't know, Erin, if you have a different one.
I would completely agree. Yeah, it's hard to tell how much someone's really willing to pay for an item. So, even if we do triple the value of it, who's to say that someone might not go above that?
This actually feeds in nicely. Our webinar next week is, and we had a question here, what types of auction items or groupings have you seen produce the greatest revenue? You know what, we have so much information on that we actually created an entire webinar around it. So next week we're going to be talking about that. So tune into that for sure. I'm trying to see here, there's some questions that I'll be honest, we don't really know the answers to yet. Like one here that I just want to point out, what's more successful, live feed auction or super silent? We're just now in this space where the live feed auction is taking off. So in a couple weeks, I'll bet you we can tell you, give you the answer to that, but I don't think we have the answer to that today. Erin, Eric, do you have any opinion on live feed auction versus super silent?
Yeah, I think we don't quite know the returns yet, especially considering how many factors there are. Your auctioneer, the quality, the technology you have, the access you have to the resources. I would say if you have the option to go live, doing whatever you can live through some sort of live feed or live streaming, the more we can create that momentum and that moment, that special moment, I think the more you're going to see come in. That's my instinct.
All right, we have more questions about video, which is fantastic because that seems to be the way we're going here, right? Can you include an embedded video with each auction item or just a photo?
Yes, great question. Yes, you can include a video link, a YouTube video link within each item.
I think this is fantastic, right? I mean, to engage folks even further, and the more video, I think the better. Here's another functionality question for you guys. And this is a GiveSmart customer asking this question: are we allowed to text the folks that we invited to our 2019 gala to solicit for 2020?
Absolutely. Yep. And we would encourage that. And I know some of our organizations even run more than one event each year. So let's say you had a golf outing and a signature gala in 2019. Now that the in-person event's off the table, you might as well text everyone that you have in your database.
All right. And now I'm sorting through questions here to see. A lot of these are similar to what we've already. This one is also back to tickets. So, I don't know. I know, Erin, you've already kind of talked about a few scenarios, but this one asks if your event is a few weeks out and you haven't sold the majority of the tickets. So it sounds like they haven't really sold many tickets. Do you stop selling the tickets? And then how do you entice people to register and get their credit card into the system?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'd probably stop selling it listed as an actual ticket and maybe instead do a suggested donation. So again, communicating that as you're sending out the link. So instead, you're not saying, please click here to buy tickets, but you're saying, please click here to participate in our fundraising. We'd really appreciate a generous donation of X amount of dollars. So maybe a suggested donation would be the way to go.
As far as the question, the second part of that question, how to get someone into the site and get their credit card on file and get them going, with GiveSmart specifically, that happens very naturally. If the first action that someone takes in the site is to place a bid or place a donation, that prompt for a credit card comes immediately, just like it does if they're making a ticket purchase. So no worries there. As soon as they are ready to give, we'll be ready to grab that credit card information to be able to collect.
Diane, I think we have time for a couple more.
Excellent, thank you. Can you add auction lots in stages, or can you auction in lots where not all have to be up at once? And there's a philosophy behind this. So, Erin, I know you've got the answer to this one.
You can, yeah. And so this sounds like somewhat of a two-part question, or maybe it could go one way or the other. But you know, a common question we get is, can you close the auction in stages? Yes, you can close the auction in stages, or you can choose to only show and hide items at a specific time. What we've found just in all the events that we've run is that it doesn't really make much of a difference when you're closing in sections. We've actually found that donors seem to appreciate it being one specific time, just because it's less confusing. There's not as much to remember, there's not as much to communicate. So you can really put your focus around communicating, you know, what items you do have, and you know, them all closing at a specific time, and that helps people better prepare and plan for which items they're going to bid on.
Yeah, I would back that up. I would say if you have a lot of items and you're wanting to break them up into sections because of that, you can consider packaging some of those items together to make a more valuable single item. And then, yeah, at the end of an event, if thinking about closing things in stages, I always get to the last part of where we're about to close the last thing, and I just wondered to myself, if we had left everything else open, would the bidding have continued on those things as well, and was there money left on the table? So I totally agree with Erin. I think leaving everything open until the end, one, for the clarity, and two, for the fundraising, is definitely the best practice.
All right, I think we have time for one more question here, and I'm trying to rank these that I have here, but I'm going to go with this this tried and true. So many of our attendees are of an older generation. Any advice for running a virtual gala for maybe less than tech savvy attendees? This is a great question.
That is a good question.
Before you jump in, I just want to share to you guys, I always kind of giggle a little bit at these questions, because my 80-something-year-old grandmother was the first person to text me in the morning many days, and when she went to fundraisers, she was the first one to bid on items. So I think we need to, recognize that many of these folks have the iPhones and everything out there, but still a great question.
Definitely. Yeah. And one of the emails I saw in the last week was, they put it in a cute way in the email, and they said, if you don't know how to do this, ask your kids for help. So, of course, if there are kids in the home, having them help the parents is a good way to do that. But Diane, like you mentioned, I think, we're at that stage now where most people, they do have, an iPhone, and they know how to access it. I think that my grandma's probably on Facebook 10 times more than I am. So some clear instructions. The site's very easy to use. So a couple 1, 2, 3 steps, and they'll be on.
Yeah, to back that up, I think the best thing you can do is find tools, whether it be your fundraising tool or your live streaming tool, that use the things that are native to people's devices. So GiveSmart, for instance, you don't need to download an app to use it. You click a link that's in a text message, and it pulls up your web browser. These are things that everybody uses every day on their phones, and it's really, really easy. And so using things that are native, using things that are intuitive are really, really helpful. The larger the barrier to entry, if I have to download something, if I have to get a special device, the less likely I am to engage with that, regardless of my age. So making it easy and making it native is the best way to go.
Absolutely. You all are stars. Thank you so much, Eric, Erin, Diane. Thank you for joining today. This has been great information.
Thank you, Maureen.
Yeah, our pleasure. And thanks to everybody for joining today. I know we did not get to all the questions, but we will. Our team is absolutely standing by to support your pivot to virtual. And more than that, we are rooting for you. So we are here Have a good rest of the day and let us know how we can help.